for a breakdown of TDK's win.
Thank you, Riv. Game 1 in our second series, they're going to TDK.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to look at here is champion select in the way that the pick spans played out here, because we talked about which lanes this match would hinge on. One of those lanes being the mid lane, the unknown of how Pobelter and Alex each would match up.
Yeah.
Now, it turned out that in the microcosm of the mid lane, it was fairly even. We saw both of them pretty close to killing each other solo, and they traded back and forth, even CS coming out of lane. However, that LeBlanc pick that Zyrene and Riv were talking about there, in the tank meta, didn't have the burst potential there in the latter parts of the game to be effective. And I have to wonder if he can stretch his champion pool to something that, you know, the Ziggs maybe, that can have a greater teamfight effect.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about LeBlanc, though, is though you're in this series with a whole bunch of tanks, these tanks have really low lockdown. You're not facing a Maokai, right? You're not facing people who are going to really reliably stun you. It's a Mundo who's not going to pin you down, a Morgana support who's not going to reliably pin you down, and Gragas who can, okay, maybe a little bit, right? But he's got a Corki and a Sivir to go hit. Like, LeBlanc's got targets, right? You kill Sivir and Corki off, you're not going to win the teamfight anymore. So I feel like compositionally, Winterfox should be fine. I mean, we saw Faker pick it in Game 5 to go to the finals. Ruined the game, right? Like, it's like, I mean, I think LeBlanc is still very good.
Yes.
And he picked this LeBlanc into the double AD comp, right? Seeing the competition, saying, okay, I'm going to kill Corki or I'm going to kill Sivir, and failed to do so. You mentioned the fact that mid lane went equal. That's good for Corki.
Yeah.
He got counterpicked by an assassin and thrived. That means Alexich won the lane. So, hey, you know, we talked about mid lane being an unknown. Well, so far, 0.1 to Alexich, won the game, survived your lane he's supposed to lose. Cool, good things so far for TDK that, you know, that's one unknown checked off the box.
Well, and then we go to the top lane, ZionSpartan, where we saw Seraph pull out the Mundo and just become that unkillable monster there in the late game. And, you know, it's the one form of carry, but as Freak mentioned, he also has the AD Bruiser Nidalee. So this guy can be a threat in multiple forms. How do you deal with that?
I mean, to me, it was just the Mundo pick. I don't feel like anything crazy happened from Seraph, but I just think it was like the Cinder Hulk, like face roll team comp. Get those tanks, get them like having a lot of health, and you can't really do anything to them. And to me, with Winterfox, there's just a big discrepancy between how they wanted to play and the type of team comp they ran. So like when Faker runs LeBlanc, there's 3 people mid for the whole game. Like it's 2v1, the support's roaming mid, level 1. Wolf is like tornadoing the mid laner so he gets chunked. And you don't really see Glebe doing that. You don't see Helios being around mid. He picked Rek'Sai of all junglers. You need to be making plays. You need to be getting LeBlanc ahead. And that's just not happening for Winterfox. So they either need to run these scaling Cinderhulk tanks as well, or they need to be pressuring mid lane right so that they can actually carry and Pobelter can get snowballed.
Yeah, when it comes to what we did see in game, we saw a lot of focus on the side of TDK into the top lane, but their bottom lane, right?
Yeah,
the support and ADK, their duo lane. Yeah. We saw Gragas paying a lot of attention up there and actually swaying that lane in favor of Sivir.
Yeah.
And we had pointed out Altec, and even TDK had pointed out Altec as the person to watch out for, the CS monster. He's going to come out ahead and he's going to roll through team fights.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job of stifling that.
Absolutely agree. Honestly, very impressive for TDK. Luigi G was, to me, the worst AD carry in Challenger up until playoffs. And then suddenly he's like doing really well. And I'm like, what happened to this player and why is he suddenly very good? But he's starting to be really, really good. Yeah, he counterpicks himself in the matchup, right? Callisto's already locked in. He's like, yeah, we're going to play Sivir because they already have the composition in mind. Fine, it's bad lane, but you know what? It's okay. We're going to buff up a Mundo. We're going to go buff up Seraph so that he can go do crazy things in the back line. Callisto's a bad tank buster where they run 2 tanks who are going to run fast at the Callista. And compositionally, they beat out Callista. Even if the lane itself is not bad, they still managed to outplay the laning phase because of all this jungle pressure, so props to TDK. And then, you know, Essence Reaver Sivir exists.
Right. So actually, I want to give you a moment to kind of
Yeah.
preach on Essence Reaver Sivir because I'm sure a lot of people are a little confused by that purchase.
It's interesting. Okay, so first of all, I am like Crit's biggest proponent ever. Like to me, the tons of damage item is actually Infinity Edge, not Trinity Force, because I love crit chance. I love single target damage.
You just upset a lot of people. Statement,
but that's
continue.
That's the thing. Is like generally speaking, AD carries are about single target damage.
Yes.
Sivir is an interesting exception. I mean, we have champions like Corki and Ezreal as well who buy Triforce or other things, but Sivir's an interesting exception. So as of 5.5 and 5.6, and these teams get accustomed to playing tank-heavy and bruiser-heavy composition, Sivir does like 3 really good things that other AD carries don't. So number 1, she helps out other bruisers. So the Mundo runs in your backline, the Gragas runs in your backline, good things happen. Great, that's point 1, team synergy. Point 2 is you have a big dog pile of melee champions sitting together, kind of hitting each other slowly. Ricochet is amazing in these cases, right? In a game where you have just Sion and then like a Kog'Maw and a Janna back here, Ricochet doesn't do anything. But Ricochet doesn't crit, and Ricochet, I guess it scales off armor pen and stuff, but if you just buy a bunch of attack damage and cooldown reduction, which is what, this Essence Reaver gives you, suddenly Ricochet becomes your greatest damage asset, and suddenly it actually works here, and actually it in a very specific set of circumstances, becomes the optimal damage item. I don't know if I'm going to build it all the time, I don't know if I'm going to try it in solo queue, but when you've got a bunch of bruisers balling up together, well, you know what? Sivir gets to deal the most damage in the game. We saw that in the post-game screen, so shout-outs to bringing that one up there, Irene. But also, yeah, when you spam Ricochet, you start to break down tanks.
Yeah, and it served to put a lot of pressure on the lanes in terms of wave clear and being able to siege up turrets with never running out of mana and having that cooldown reduction.
And that is an extra benefit as well, is that you've got this team who's going to outsplit push you. Like, okay, Sivir into Kalista sucks. Well, I'm never going to be in lane. I'll just like QW the wave and then leave. And I've got a low cooldown ultimate, so I can leave more often. And, Seraph's off on the side being better than Avalon, split pushing on a Cinderhulk and just buying time to clear waves forever and scale up into infinity. And that works. So kind of every single part of this game, from compositions to champ select to item builds, serve the purpose of let's scale up and have a death ball.
Yeah.
And good on them for doing it.
Exactly. Great to see that coming out of TDK. I do want to jump into the replay and ZionSpartan. I'm going to throw this one to you. We're going to the Dragon fight that ended up as a 4-for-1 for TDK, resulting in a Baron. We're going to pull that up on your screens right now and let you run with it.
Yeah, this is basically a team fight where you kind of see what happens. You get to that mid game with 2 Cinderhulk tanks and Sivir, and they're just running at you, and you can't really kill those tanks. And so you start it out, the teleport comes out, you get the Dragon, and then, yeah, they can't do anything to these tanks. Like this Mundo and this Gragas are just unkillable. Kalista and LeBlanc are just doing no damage to Seraph's just walking into all of them, and he takes no damage. And there's not much you can do when you can't even kill the front line. He actually ends up living.
Yeah, which is incredible.
He even gets ignited or Morellonomicon by Pobelter as well. And actually, it's worth pointing out, Belter was actually late to the fight, so not only did TDK fight a good battle, but Winterfox were like contesting Dragon 4v5. Then Sivir comes in, they're like, well, we still got to wait for Belter here, so I don't know. And then, the health bars eventually wear down.
Yeah, there seemed to be maybe a bit of an element of hubris in that Winterfox feeling they could contest things they shouldn't have been, with the mindset of maybe we can outplay here. And as Irene and Freak mentioned, a lot of their game plan, I think, relied on coming out of lanes ahead, and they didn't have the gold lead that they expected to support a little bit more headstrong play. I
mean, you mentioned it, right? The champions picked. You've got LeBlanc in here, who's going to snowball the mid lane usually. You got Rek'Sai, the early game jungler, who's supposed to do many more things than Gragas. None of it happened.
Yeah, they just have the way easier team comp to play. So if you're TDK, you can just keep doing what you're doing. Hey, let's scale it. Like, please do something, Winterfox, with LeBlanc and Rek'Sai. And if they don't feel like, if they're not confident enough to snowball mid-game and get Pobelter fed with that kind of team comp, then they have to resort to Cinderhulk too, because that's the easier champion and style to play. And they can also play Deathball. Then the team fights will get really interesting. But since they're playing that early game style, they have to try to do something or just adapt to what TDK is doing.
And you actually did see the bans come out from TDK, getting rid of Jinx and Nunu as well. I think were actually very important. They get rid of some of that hyper carry potential of Altec. It leaves them basically on just Kog'Maw right now, and Kog'Maw is actually pretty easy to abuse potentially in champ select. So, the CS machine Altec, I want to see him get on an actual carry because it didn't work here in Kalista because you don't build crit on that champion, and it's not Sivir. You can't just do that same kind of thing.
Well, TDK opting to go for simple but effective. And if it works, it works. So when we come back, we'll jump into Game 2 between Winterfox and TDK. Don't go anywhere. The Summer Promotion Tournament continues after this.
You guys scared or excited?
No, scary. I'm excited.
Good.
Where is Russia?
What?
Where is Russia?
All of Winterfox is in retreat right now. TDK gets a great fight. Pobelter tries to find the backline, and he actually positions nicely with Avalon. Stun.
Nice. You gotta clip him, man.
Nice!
Mouse
Maokai.
I got Kalista.
LB. I got both of them.
Okay. I'm looking at LB. I'm on Rek'Sai.
TDK takedown Winterfox for game 1.